Welcome everyone to this week's IPLD weekly meeting. It's February the 24th, 2020. And as every week we go over the stuff that we've done in the past week and plan to do, and then discuss any open issues we might have. Don't have the notes open. No, I have. And everyone, please, I also post the notes in the chat. Please add your name to the attendees list. All right. So, first one on the list is myself. So, this week, actually, I've done plenty of stuff. Last week I had a meeting with the folks from ChainSafe that implement Rust Filecoin, and we just want to talk about the IPLD stuff, and especially what things they need, because they also need to implement selectors, and there is in the notes there is the link to the meeting notes as well, but the important bits for you is that I've told them that they shouldn't use IPLD for now. Excuse me. They shouldn't use IPLD for now. They should just stick to their custom CBOR encoding that they currently have. As it currently works, and Filecoin currently really is only CBOR, and the Rust IPLD stuff just takes some time, and they are on a time timeline, so it just doesn't make sense to wait for it, or building some hacky version of it. They just use CBOR encoding directly, but they use the IPLD data model. And I told them that hopefully, or I'm sure that as they really base it around the data model, once there is IPLD, it should be easy to swap out, and we should be fine. Then on the Rust side of things, many other things happen. So the multi-base got a major upgrade. So now all base encodings are supported. Then on Rust multi-hash, there's a big major PR on changing the APIs, which I merge tomorrow. And once this one is merged, finally we can move off libp2p from a fork from multi-hash they created 1.5 years ago to use the upstream version. And also related to the Rust stuff is that Rust IPLD is now properly licensed under MIT and Apache license. And I also proposed the blog API. I still need to, I have halfway implemented it, but I need to take a closer look if the API really makes sense or is easy to use. We'll see. And on the summer related news is the Rust IPFS dev grant is finally officially approved. So those folks will get started soon. Next I will work on Rust CID, which is also kind of outdated and has some forks, and I need to bring them together. And what I haven't done, what I plan to do, is writing a blog post about the Rust efforts, because there's so many people contributing to it, and hopefully even more. But I work on it together with the people from the Rust IPFS grant. That's all I have. Next one on my list is Rod.
Yet again, am I on? Yeah, I am. Yet again, my week was filled with Comp. So this last week, I made a concerted effort to understand Comp, because the more we pull away from using the Rust field proofs code and implement our own custom fork of it, the more risk there is in screwing it up and getting edge cases wrong. And so I just felt the need to properly grok what it was doing, even though I have a general idea. So I actually spent a lot of last week doing it in JavaScript, and I made a JavaScript version of it that did the three main pieces of the pipeline to get a comp from a file. So I feel like I'm a lot more qualified now to talk and think about comp. So we have a working Lambda in Rust that Michael has been using apparently with some success. There's a pull request that Friedel has sitting in Rust field proofs, which is pull request 1026, and it does some streaming work. I know it at least does streaming padding, FR32 padding. Apparently, it also does streaming Merkle, but I didn't see that when I scanned the code. But apparently, it's in there. But either way, that would be really good to get that merged. That may not happen. The Filecoin guys may not have the bandwidth to really get that to a merge state and be happy with it. But I thought it'd be worth rebasing our Lambda work onto that, and then that should let us remove some of my more concerning custom code, which is to juggle the 3 gigs of memory. Because if we can do, like just streaming padding would let us take our requirements down to 2 gigs. So it would be good to use that, and then I think we would be closer to Rust field proof code, even though it's coming from a branch that's not merged into master yet. So I was going to play with that this week. And lastly, I've enrolled in this internal Go training course that's on. It's this week and next. I didn't realize how densely it was packed, but I've got commitments this for basically more than half time of this week and next to run through course material and get that done. But everyone's very excited about that, and there's a lot of stuff to do. So that's me.
Thanks. And next one on my list is Tim.
All right. So I've been pretty busy with other stuff, haven't got a lot done, but I think I'm ready to go ahead and merge the draft for the selector syntax. I addressed the feedback as far as I can tell. There haven't been a lot of strong opinions either way. And I'm continuing working on implementing parsers and compilers to verify it. I have the current one that I'm working on in Zig, and I'm going to do another one in JavaScript, so we have 2 languages, and then maybe write some syntax highlighters too, because that also is a parser with very constrained abilities depending on which highlighting engine. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thanks. So next on my list is Michael.
Hello. Hey. Yeah. Okay. I got a bunch more done on the big data pipeline stuff. Like Rod mentioned, we have the comp generation now, so finished out a couple whole data sets with that, which is great. Also, at some point, I have one car file now that is failing to generate comp. It's actually like throwing a nice error, so I need to figure out which one it is and hand that off. Actually, figure out what's going on there. Now I'm just hitting a bunch of other new bottlenecks in the data pipeline. I need to speed up some of the car file creation. We're getting timeouts on the car files that have a lot of tiny files in them because they're just too slow. I need to find some other way to, I'll probably end up having to actually create multiple car files and then merge them together in a step somewhere down the line. So lots of work to do there still, but things are getting unblocked and whole data sets are coming out the other end now, so people can move on with the rest of the Filecoin side of that whole equation. So that's really good. Yeah, and then the last thing that I just kind of wanted to put on everybody's radar, I started poking around at what it would be like to have a whole kind of database on top of IPLD. So started building what I'm calling DAG-DB, which is like it's surprising how traditional it looks actually. It's, like an appendable transaction log and a head of the built data structure. And yeah, so I started poking at that, and it's actually been really kind of illuminating just in terms of like the ergonomics of what our stack would look like if you implement a database on top of it. The block API is really, really prominent, and that fits really nicely into everything. I ended up writing a different schema library actually, because the type gen stuff wasn't fitting as well in this context. So now there's a library that is really just doing schema validation. It's just, you know, checking the data, making sure that it's being written correctly, or that you're reading the data that you're reading is in the format that you expect. It's not doing a lot of the other kind of more fancy type generation stuff. Yeah, so I added a couple people to that, and I'll probably make that repo public pretty soon after I get through a few more ideas on it. And make it real. Right now, it's just like using, like the actual key value store that it's working with is just a regular map. It's not a HAMP yet, so I need to like pull Rod's HAMP code in and do all that. But yeah, that's it for me. Moving along to Eric.
I did a bunch of fun spec writing stuff this week. So yeah. And a bunch of coding, but it's mostly the spec writing stuff that I would love to get some other people's attention on. So I had to take a look at paths again, a rather important thing that we have mostly come to informal agreements on, but haven't done a lot of specs on. So I had some code in the Go code base that Peter took a look at this week and asked me some pointed questions about, and I said, read the docs. And then he read the docs back to me, and I was like, oh, no, don't read those docs. Those are old and wrong. So I have a PR now on the Go IPLD Prime repo, which fixes a bunch of those docs. And I'm going to merge it because it is telling a bunch of hard truths about what the library actually does. But I would love to get a bunch of people to look at it anyway and sort of use this as a discussion starter for stuff that we should probably work on in the specs repo. Tim, I'm kind of thinking of you, not just because you're laughing and so overjoyed at this, but it's sort of related to the selectors stuff as well. So maybe it fits if you want to take a look at it. Yeah, I would love to get some more of that stuff specified well. I had a PR from last week about recommendations for IPLD library designers. And I think that's probably good to merge. Nobody seemed to have any objections to that content. But following on from that and some discussion that Volker started, I also wrote a new document this week of a glossary of type theory, which is a little ambitious and a little intimidating, at least for me to write it, because that's such a big topic. But I tried to keep it to just a very surface level thing and talk about basic stuff and some of the documentation that we had written for the concept of cardinality before and how that affects our system design. That's basically just grown a lot and become this like type theory primer document. So I'm hoping that that's going to be helpful. It's got tons of comments already that I need to work through, so thank you for those. Yeah, hopefully that's going to be a constructive thing. In coding news, there's a bunch of coding. I don't know if I want to bother anyone with it. Still trying to get these interface refactors landed on master in the Go repos. It's closer. Everything is factored apart in packages now. Came up with tons of design docs looking forward to bringing this stuff back to CodeGen. There were some difficult problems prompted last week trying to split it into packages. And so now those are got big write-ups. I've ported codecs successfully to the new interfaces though, so that's good progress. And they do look faster. The new codecs, in fact, look significantly faster than the equivalent operations using the standard lib JSON stuff on native maps. We're beating that by a solid 144%. I'm satisfied with this outcome. This is while we also have all of our other advanced features around IPLD and like programmatic traversals and yada, 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 all this fancy stuff. And we're beating standard library performance for serializers and marshalers and stuff. And we're doing it while we have pluggable codecs. This is okay. I still want to make it faster, but this is okay. I have not quite got the traversal stuff ported to all of the new interfaces because that it turns out selectors use some helper interfaces from a while ago, and I'm no longer sure if I feel those interfaces are helpful, so I'm pausing for a bit to reflect on if those should be removed and migrated or updated to stay, I don't know. But there's not too much more to do here. So, and the other research thread I'm opening up for myself is still about managing benchmarks. In the textual notes, you'll probably see here that I've reported that things got faster, but then I also have just some offhand comments of like, on this example data set, which isn't very large and might not be representative. Talked about this a bit last week, but still struggling to have a good organization around benchmarks. I'm thinking about writing some custom tooling for munging benchmark outputs, which Go's built-in benchmarking tools are really good until you get a bunch of different packages, and then suddenly the output becomes not very pretty on the eye. So I'm thinking about writing some custom glue tooling to improve this. Not 100% sure if that's going to be a good use of time, but I'm starting to lean towards yes, because as I scale this stuff out and it starts spreading across packages, it's bogging me down at this point. So if anyone has opinions about how that should be done, I am all ears. All right, that's it for me.
All right. Any updates from anyone else? Or any questions, other discussion topics?
I will just quickly say that I have a backlog of things to review. I haven't looked at Tim's spec PRs yet, and Eric, I need to at least get to your spec PR 241. So I'll probably try and do some of that this week. Sorry for being behind on that stuff, but yeah, I do have a backlog. I will be showing up.
Oh, I almost forgot too. I'm off this Friday and on Monday, so all of the one-on-ones in this meeting I won't be in. Got a wedding in Portland that I gotta go to. So.
Oh, I also forget to add that I'm also off on Friday. Yeah.
You're not also going to the same wedding, are you?
No, but
because it's J. Chris's wedding, so.
Okay, no, I'm not. No. Could be no. I'm helping a friend moving, so that's not S6 that special. Okay. All right, then I guess we are done for today. We were pretty quick. That's cool. And so yeah, see you all next week. Goodbye, everyone.